Hello, Facebook. This is Schellie Fan, your emotional intelligence expert. Welcome to this week's Ask Schellie segment. Let me go over to Instagram here. Hello, Facebook. Going over to Instagram. Welcome, Instagram, to this week's Ask Schellie segment. Hello, everybody. My name is Schellie Fan, and I am your emotional intelligence expert. I am the CEO and founder of Ask Schellie Consulting, where we use psychoeducation to bring businesses, corporations, ministries, families, and individuals to their next level. I love what I do. I am a licensed psychotherapist here in the state of Florida, specializing in self-esteem and motivation and behavior change as well. I serve the ages of 2 to 99, and I absolutely love what I do. And because I'm a licensed psychotherapist, I am always being asked question upon question. So I use this time to go live here on Facebook and here on Instagram to share the questions that I'm asked, to get your feedback. You guys are experts as well, and I would love your feedback, especially with this week's question. So I do encourage you to chime in and comment. Please share this live. I do not proclaim to know all of the answers, and this is in no attempt to replace therapy. I do use this as an opportunity to provide a perspective, my feedback that you could possibly add to your wellness toolbox or invite someone else to add it to theirs. So if this does not float your boat, please make sure that you use this information for the benefit of somebody else. And so I appreciate your shares. Thank you so much for your support of Ask Schellie Consulting. Again, this is no way to replace therapy. Therapy is a journey between a licensed psychotherapist, a mental health professional, and a person who has made a decision to say yes to themselves. Someone who has committed to optimize their mental wellness, who signs informed consent. They understand the risk and the liability in entering into a therapeutic journey. This is not what this is. Although I invite those who feel that this is a season where they want to break through. If this is your season where you are sick of being stuck, it is time for you to align yourself with a powerful accountability partner that understands the evidence-based practices that will get you unstuck. That is what I do. I am going to jump into this week's Ask Schellie segment question, and I want your feedback. Hello, TJ Legacy. I see you, Marjorie, Bookworm Sigma. Hello on Instagram. Here on Facebook. Hey, Shatera. Hello, Bree. Hi, Katrina. Marjorie. I got you on 2 different places. This is so great. Are we ready for this week's Ask Schellie question? Are we ready? Listen, I need your feedback. So please make sure that you comment and share your feedback. Marjorie says, I moved to Facebook too. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for your shares. And let's get into this week's question. Are we ready? All right. Dear Ask Schellie, I honestly don't know where to begin. I am so hurt. I am not sure what to say. I have been in an amazing relationship for about 4 years. I love when people start that way. They always start that way. Their relationship is so special, so awesome. Just an observation. I honestly don't know where to begin. I am so hurt. I am not sure what to say. I have been in an amazing relationship for about 4 years. The man that I am with is what I thought was heaven sent. He loves the Lord. He has no children. He is accomplished. He is honest. He is ambitious and a hard worker. He loves me for me, and we find purpose with one another. See, when you start using the word purpose, that's my weakness, because you guys know how I feel, that your union with someone that you love has to answer a world problem. Amen? You're a huge fan, TJ Legacy. I love Soapbox Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so she says that we find purpose with one another. There was no doubt in our minds that we were meant to be together forever. So our next phase in our relationship was marriage. A few weeks ago, my worst nightmare came to pass. My boyfriend has a very challenging past involving his father. A lot of hurt and anger there. We were having a disagreement regarding how he was treating his father. He would talk about wanting to rebuild his relationship with his dad, but his actions were very dismissive and opposite of what he said he wanted. We got into a very heated discussion about my observations, and the discussion became an argument, and the argument became physical. I made a comment about him being more like his father than he thinks, and he got very angry. He tried to walk away, and I grabbed his arm. We got to be careful, women, when we start grabbing, when they try to walk away. He tried to walk away, and I grabbed his arm. He forcefully grabbed me by my neck so hard, it felt like a punch to my throat. He then pushed me to the ground, but later stated I fell over and was not pushed down. It makes me so confused because I even question whether he grabbed my neck or not. Needless to say, I ended our relationship, and we are now in this space where we are both miserable. He wants us to work it out. He is saying that this is an isolated incident and that he has never ever laid his hands on any woman or man. I know this man does not have a violent bone in his body, but I just don't know what to do. This was not supposed to happen. I have never been hit by a man before and never thought in a million years that I would be in this position. Am I a domestic violence victim? What should I do? Hi, Jen. Hello, Coach Jennifer. All right. So TJ Legacy says, never tell a man that he acts like his dad. And grabbed him? Oh no, shaking my head. Okay, so I'm going to repeat the question. This is a woman who's saying, am I a domestic violence victim? Should I stay or should I go? All right, here we go. Dear Schellie, I honestly don't know where to begin. I am so hurt. I am not sure what to say. I have been in an amazing relationship for about 4 years. The man that I am with is what I thought was heaven sent. He loves the Lord. He has no children. He is accomplished. He is honest. He is ambitious and a hard worker. He loves me for me, and we find purpose with one another. There was no doubt in our minds that we were meant to be together forever. So our next phase in our relationship was marriage. A few weeks ago, my worst nightmare came to pass. For those of you who have already heard the question, I want to hear your feedback. Should she stay or should she go? My boyfriend has a very challenging past involving his father. A lot of hurt and anger there. We were having a disagreement regarding how he was treating his father. He would talk about wanting to rebuild his relationship with his dad, but his actions were very dismissive and opposite of what he said he wanted. We got into a very heated discussion about my observations, and the discussion became an argument, and the argument became physical. I made a comment about him being more like his father than he thinks, and he got very angry. He tried to walk away, and I grabbed his arm. He forcefully grabbed me by my neck so hard it felt like a punch to my throat. He then pushed me to the ground, but later stated I fell over and was not pushed down. It makes me so confused because I even question whether he grabbed my neck or not. Needless to say, I ended our relationship, and we are now in this space where we are both miserable. He wants to work it out. He says that this is an isolated incident and that he has never ever laid his hands on any woman or man. I know this man does not have a violent bone in his body, but I just don't know what to do. This was not supposed to happen. I have never been hit by a man before and never thought in a million years that I would be in this position. Am I a domestic violence victim? What should I do? All right, Facebook. She's wanting to know, should she stay or should she go? I'd love to hear your feedback. TJ Legacy says he made a choice to put hands on you. Something in his pathway needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, the grabbing, shoving physically is only the beginning. She also shows toxic behavior, power and control issues, but the letter reads like someone with Stockholm syndrome. Woo! Listen, do you want to sit in this seat with me, Mr. TJ Legacy? Facebook, should she stay or should she go? So now she's asking, what should I do? And I want to address that question because I am not here to tell you what you should do. And not only for the purpose of this Ask Schellie segment, but even if you were sitting in my office on my counseling couch, right, would I tell you what to do? My role is to assist you in making a decision that aligns with your morals, your standards, and your value. As a woman, that is my role, to assure that the decision that you make is not emotionally driven, but something that is in alignment with who you say you are. And when we are in emotional positions, sometimes it's very difficult to make those decisions. I am not here to tell you what to do, but I will provide some feedback that would hopefully empower you to make the best decision for your life. Okay? First and foremost, you say that he does not have a violent bone in his body. And he just laid hands on you, so that is not true. I think when we are in a position when we are feeling emotional, we have to be very careful even about the words that we use, because the words that we use sometimes become, or oftentimes become, our truth, and we actually begin to believe it. I'm not saying that he's a violent man. I'm not judging him by this incident, but we have to be careful with the words that we use. He does not have a violent bone in his body is not true because he laid hands on you. So we have to be able to separate emotions and feelings from facts. Feelings are not facts because you know him in a different light. You just got introduced to a new, not necessarily a new person, but you got introduced to another side of him. The range, the personality range for him has just expanded. Now, in his defense, there's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot of details that are not in this question. So you say that you grabbed him by his arm. How hard was that grab? How heated did the conversation get? Aggression begets aggression. We should never, as women, feel like, oh my God, I can't believe he hit me, but you hit him first, or whatever. That aggression begets aggression. And because there's a lot of information that I don't know, I'm going to kind of stand clear of that and continue to provide feedback that will hopefully empower you to make the best decision for your life. Now, domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior where the threat or use of violence is used for intimidation, power, and control. Seldom are the incidents isolated. Seldom is this pattern of behavior confined to one incident. Is it possible? Can it possibly ever happen as an isolated incident? The answer is yes. Is it probable? Well, according to the statistics, it seldom happens as an isolated incident. So this is your gamble, love. This is your gamble. If you want to do it straight mathematically and statistically, the statistics show that it seldom happens as an isolated incident. So you have to ask yourself, is it worth the gamble? Is it worth the gamble to stay with someone that you have been with many years, who has just showed you another side of himself? It puts you in a position where you could have been I don't know if you were physically injured. Hi, Tamara. Thank you for joining. I don't know if you were physically injured. I don't know the degree of that, but you saw another side of him, and now you're saying, do I want to stay? Do I need to stay? Should I stay? Is it worth the gamble? Again, isolated incidents when it comes to domestic violence happens very seldom. That means that most of the time what we consider an isolated incident is the beginning of a pattern that generally increases in frequency, in duration, and severity. Let me repeat that. What most women consider an isolated incident is the beginning of a pattern of abusive behavior that generally over time increases in frequency, duration, and severity. Is it worth the gamble? So I want to talk about emotional recall. How are you guys feeling over there, Facebook? How are you guys feeling? I want to hear what it is you have to say. What is it that you have to say? Should she stay or should she go? I want to talk about emotional recall. And I've talked about it on previous lives. And this is when we recall an incident, when we are accessing memories in a manner that is emotionally driven. So based on how you feel in that moment, you recall a situation in a certain way. That's basically what that means. That's called emotional recall. When you are accessing memories in an emotionally driven state. And as a result of where you are emotionally, it impacts the manner in which you recall the incident. And so let's just say that you're recalling something and you are in a mood that is somewhat pessimistic. Then you may recall that incident in a more pessimistic perspective, basically is what it means. And a lot of the times I find with women that we tend to put our emotion on certain memories. So we say, oh, he was so romantic, and oh, our relationship was so wonderful, and all of these wonderful things. But then when we start to separate feelings from facts, we start to realize that those romantic incidents were very few and far between, and it really wasn't as good as you say. That's emotional recall. And I hear a lot of emotional recall even in this letter, even in this question where you're saying, you know, he grabbed me by my throat and he grabbed me so hard it felt like a punch to my throat. But then later you say, well, maybe he didn't grab me by my throat, it was he threw me to the floor. Well, he says that I fell over to the floor, and you know, he doesn't have a violent bone in his body, but he grabbed you by the neck and threw you on the floor. And so now we have all of this emotional recall because you're at a place where you miss him and you want to be with him, and you're feeling emotional. So you know what all that says to me? And all that inconsistency and opposition and incongruence, it means that you are not in a position to make this decision. You do not have the emotional capacity right now to make this decision. And so a lot of the times when we don't have the emotional capacity to make the decision, we go back. I'm not saying go back. I'm not saying go back. I'm not saying move forward. I'm saying chill. You need to heal. You need to align yourself with good counsel, with accountability, someone who is mature, someone who is not emotionally involved, someone who's objective, someone who's not biased, someone who is trained that can counsel, guide you to a place of healing and less emotion. So you're making a decision that's not emotionally driven, but driven by wisdom. Driven by wisdom. Knowledge, Facebook, knowledge, Instagram, is not power. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge applied is power, because knowledge applied is wisdom. And sometimes when we are emotional, we know better and do not do better. So that is an example of knowledge not applied. So we don't want you to go back or move forward in an emotional place. We need to get some more emotional stability. We need to resolve this emotional recall and all of the dissonance that it's causing before you make this decision. Emotional recall. We want to make sure that you are not emotionally driven when you make this decision. Jackie says, I think anyone that is given permission to continue a pattern will continue. She needs to give herself permission to take control of her safety and herself first. Thank you, Jackie. You know what I love? Jackie says on Instagram, Jackie says, I think that anyone that is given permission to continue a pattern will continue. We teach people how to treat us. It's as simple as that. We teach and train people how to treat us. And a lot of the times, your allowance sets the stage for what that treatment is going to look like. I'm not saying that we need to start judging people and walking away from what can possibly be an isolated incident, but we have to be very careful what we allow, because your forgiveness, our allowance, sets the stage for how people will continue to treat us. Again, is it worth it? Jackie says, yep. Jen says, knowledge applied is, I'm so tired of people saying knowledge is power, because there's a whole lot of people that keep me in business that know better and do not do better. And so that is a perfect example of how knowledge is not power. Knowledge applied is power, because knowledge applied is what? Wisdom. So let's go back to your non-negotiables. And I always ask people to go back to their non-negotiables, especially as it relates to their everyday operations in their relationships. Because what happens is that we create a life of unhappiness and a life that attracts undesired outcomes when we allow our non-negotiables to become negotiable. What are your non-negotiables? If you're saying that infidelity is your non-negotiable, then that should be your non-negotiable. If you're saying that dishonesty is your non-negotiable, then allow it to be your non-negotiable. If you're saying laying hands on me or becoming physically aggressive toward me is your non-negotiable, then that is your non-negotiable. When we are feeling emotional, our non-negotiables will be the pillar that we need, that anchor that we need to refer to make decisions that are not emotionally driven. What are your non-negotiables? Because if you go back to your non-negotiables, you should say that no matter how I feel, no matter how much I miss him, no matter how much I want to be with him, no matter how much I want to give him a second chance, my non-negotiable is my non-negotiable. That is your boundary. And if you can't honor your non-negotiable and you can't honor your own boundaries, no one else will. No one else will. If you cannot honor your own non-negotiables, and if you can't honor your own boundaries, nobody else will. What are your non-negotiables? I want to ask this writer, was this your non-negotiable? Was this a part of your non-negotiables? Some of us get into relationships and don't even have a list of what those are. And that's a problem. Marjorie says, lesson learned late, but it was learned. Yes. You don't honor your own boundaries, nobody else will. So it's important, listener, love, this beautiful queen that's writing in. It's important to go back to your non-negotiables. And what is that? And only you know what that is. And I will say to anybody, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will say, do not negotiate your non-negotiables. Just don't do it. You're asking yourself, should you stay? I'm going back to your question. You're asking yourself, should you stay? And I wonder if that's even a question that should be considered right now. I think a lot of times when we are in difficult situations, we ask ourselves the wrong questions. We ask ourselves things that are not necessarily the point. I don't think the question should be, should you stay? I think the question should be, can you stay? Can you stay? Can you stay after that? Can you stay after that violation where trust was broken, boundaries was broken, safety was questioned? Can you stay? Can you guys recover? The recovery process is much more, it's deeper than we think, because there's a lot involved here. We're talking about emotional injury. You're saying that this is a man that never had an aggressive episode to any other man or any other woman. I don't know how many men never fought. Is that me? Do I just know violent people? But you're saying that he's never aggressed toward a man or a woman, and he doesn't have a violent bone in his body, which we've already disputed that. But clearly there's a lot of emotional injury there when it relates to his dad, right? So there needs to be some recovery and some healing there. You need healing. That is tough. You were hurt by someone that you love, someone that you made a decision to spend the rest of your life with. Can you recover? It's going to involve him getting all of that emotional injury healed, addressed. He's to overcome that. You need to overcome your emotional injury as a result of this incident. Can you recover? That is the question. Can you stay? This seems like a really big impasse. It seems like a lot to overcome. And sometimes we stay because how we feel in this moment, but understand that you could even recover from that. The intensity of your emotions may not be this intense in a year. And so we have to stop putting ourselves in compromising positions and 10 years later saying to yourself, you know what? I should have left. You know, I talked last week when we were talking about Kobe Bryant and that whole situation and talked about resilience when the story didn't end the way we expected. And the importance of having the resilience to accept that the story didn't end the way that I expected. And in life, there are going to be times where we just have to accept that the story did not end the way that we expected. And a lot of the times what we do is we try to resolve it by making decisions to assure that the story ends the way you expected it, as opposed to just accepting that it didn't. Truth versus reason. A lot of times we make decisions based on truths. It may be true that he loves you, true that you guys had an amazing relationship, true that he can be trusted, true that you guys were a dynamic couple. But does that truth have to be the reason why you stay? Truth is truth. It doesn't have to be your reason. The truth does not have to be your reason. The truth can be that he loves me. We had an amazing relationship. We had great conversation. We had an amazing 3 or 4 years. And in spite of that, I'm choosing me. It takes a lot of strength to, despite how you feel, make a decision that values or honors something that is absolutely priceless. And that something is you. Is it worth the gamble? I encourage you to align yourself with good counsel. You can always reach out to me, the same email that you sent this to, info@askschellie.com. You can book me at www.askschellie.com. You could call the office 407-350-5070. If I'm not the one for you, we will find someone for you. But this is definitely a time where you need to align yourself with good counsel so you're making the best decision. We need to stop making decisions that are emotionally driven. Feelings are not facts, and truth should not always be your reason. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's Ask Schellie segment. Thank you, Jackie. Hey, Jimmy. Marjorie, thank you so much for joining in. Jen, hey, Carrie. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in and just supporting Ask Schellie Consulting. I do appreciate your shares. I appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much, all of you, for honoring yourself. Honor yourself. You know what? This is just a season of self-discipline. Self-discipline is about saying no to what you do want to do and saying yes to what you don't want to do. That's the season. Let's grow up. Let's get unstuck. Let's do things different. And let's reap all that is owed to us, all that we have sowed for in 2020. And you know what? Do you know what's needed in order to do that? Do you know what's needed to reap all that you have sowed? A commitment to doing it different. An increase in self-discipline. Saying yes to what you don't want to do and saying no to what you do want to do. Get unstuck in 2020. It is a choice. I look forward to meeting with you guys next Tuesday at 12. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Ask Schellie segment.